What's going on, everyone? Thank you for joining us today. So today we're going to get into some preview for next round at Thunder Valley. We also have some interesting information about Jett Lawrence and his injury. And we're also just going to kind of recap the race that we just saw at Hangtown and just kind of paint the picture of where the series might be heading. So let's get into it. So first up, let's talk about this 250 class. And the first guy we got to talk about is obviously Hayden Deegan. So Deegan looks pretty comfortable. He looks fast. He's 13 points ahead of Kitchen, and so far his worst finish in a moto is second place. So obviously he's off to a great start to the season, but last year at Thunder Valley, it was not his best race. Didn't go that well. He went backwards in both motos and ended up finishing 8th overall. Now this year, I know Hayden is a much different rider. He's much more confident, much more comfortable, and he's just overall doing much better. So I do look for him to not have the same result, but just something worth keeping in mind is that he did struggle a little bit in Thunder Valley. So just keep an eye out for that. I'm sure he'll do very well. I do expect him to be on the podium, but just wanted to draw attention to that. Moving on to Levi Kitchen. Kitchen is looking really strong. He's obviously a racer. He's a changed man this season, but like I said, he is a racer. So when he didn't qualify well last weekend, he still put in an absolutely great start and great rides in both motos, and he kept himself in the championship fight. As I had mentioned, he's 13 points behind. So definitely not within immediate striking distance, but definitely still in the title fight. One thing worth keeping an eye on is that Levi did do very well in Thunder Valley last season. He got 3rd overall, right behind Hunter Lawrence and Justin Cooper, who are no longer in the series. So this could potentially be a place where he could gain some points back on Hayden. Next, we got to mention Tom Vial. Obviously, we saw Tom have that breakout ride in Moto number 2 at the last round in Hangtown. Now, Tom arguably may not have won the moto if it hadn't been for Hayden Deegan's epic dismount, but he definitely was closing in on Hayden, so it's hard to say exactly how that would have gone. But one thing we know for sure is that Tom did find the speed, and he found the pace and the endurance to get through the race, so look for him to be a threat and potentially close in on Hayden in the points as well. Next, we got to mention both of the Honda boys, the first of which being Chance Hymas. Chance is really fast this year, really awesome to see, and I'm still really concerned about his ACL being torn. I hope that it's not a full tear. I don't really know that part for sure, but whatever the case may be, it looks like his knee is pretty stable right now, so hopefully he can keep it going at least through the rest of the season. I'm sure he's going to have surgery at some point. When that will be, I do not know, but for now, he's a contender, and I look for him to get his first podium soon. And right behind him, we have Joe Shimoda, who is arguably off to a disappointing start to the season, but if you zoom out and look at the big picture of his career and where he's at right now, I think he's actually off to a pretty good start. He came in with an ankle injury from Supercross, and realistically, he always gets off to a slow start anyways, so the fact that he's still top 5 in points and putting in top 5 rides right now could be dangerous come down the road, especially if he can continue to stay right inside the top 5 and getting podiums soon, and then if these guys start to make mistakes, he could be right there within striking distance to take over this championship lead as we head down the stretch, which tends to be his strength. Also, I just quickly want to mention both of the Triumph boys, Joey Savacci and Angelique Swoll. I do expect for one of them to get at least a moto podium soon. Obviously, Joey appears to be the faster of the two, but he also appears to be having the majority of the issues. Angelique looks smooth and consistent, so that's really cool to see. I'd like to see those guys be successful and just to have another brand be successful in the sport. One last rider I would like to mention in the 250 class is going to be Ty Masterpool. So we saw Ty get off to that great start in Moto 2, and he kind of pushed the front pace for a little bit. He actually said that he felt like he had the pace to run with Hayden Deegan and maybe even try to run him down, but he ended up dislocating one of his ribs, and he had a really hard time breathing, and that's why he ended up fading just outside of the top 10. So look for Ty to potentially be a podium contender moving forward. I am really happy to see that he is gelling with that 250. I was having some concerns about him switching so close to the start of the season, which I think we did see why when we saw him in that opening round in Paula, but look for him moving forward to be better. He's also recovering from a calf injury, so his fitness is down just a little bit, but especially with a break after Thunder Valley, I do look for him to come back very strong in round 5. Moving on to the 450 class, we have got to talk about Chase Sexton and the new rider that he potentially has become. When I asked you guys on the community page what you thought if he is a new man or if that was just a once-in-a-lifetime ride, almost 70% of you said that this is a new Chase Sexton and look for him to be dangerous in the near future. And I'd have to agree with that. I do think that that was probably a once-in-a-lifetime ride in the sense that we won't see anything to that extent for a long time. But I do think that Chase Sexton will not be racing the same for the rest of the season. I do look for him to be exceptional and be able to at least match Jett Lawrence most of the time. So I do look for a good championship battle to be shaping up. He's 24 points ahead of Jett Lawrence, but right now, the closest contender is actually his brother, Hunter Lawrence, so I'll have to keep an eye on that. Hopefully, Chase can get off to reasonably good starts and challenge the Lawrence brothers, as well as his other contenders. Moving on to Jett Lawrence. So Jett, we saw have that nasty get-off in Moto number 1 at Hangtown. Right on the first lap, he went for that large jump going downhill, and unfortunately, he came up very short. Now, obviously, they did change the takeoff of that jump, which was never really meant to be a jump. It was just a rolling section meant to go downhill, and of course, Jett found a way to jump it. They did knock down the first one a little bit, and Jett did know that, so the people saying that the track changes hurt Jett and that they shouldn't be changing the track in the middle of the race, he knew he had the sight lap, and MX Sports actually came to the Honda trailer and talked to the guys to see what they thought about those track changes before they made them, and while they did express some concerns about changing the track, overall they did agree that the track would be changed, and they were well aware of the fact that the track was being changed. So I think that when we saw Jett jump that jump, that he just truly believed he could make it, and unfortunately he did not. So obviously Jett had a lot of confidence, and I'm sure he still does have a fair amount of confidence, but there's no way that that type of an incident would not knock your confidence back at least a little bit. So I'm curious to see exactly what type of confidence he carries into this round at Thunder Valley. As I previously stated, he is only 24 points behind, which does sound like a lot at first. But if you look at his year last year, it would only take him 8 moto wins to close that gap, and he won every single moto last year, 22 of them to be exact. So that's really not out of the realm of possibilities, and that's with Chase getting second behind him every single moto. So realistically, Chase is going to have to continue to beat Jett consistently to have a chance at winning this title. Jett is definitely still in it. He just has to get through Thunder Valley safely and at least score some good points. He doesn't even need to win, and then he could really fight for this championship down the road. I do expect Jett to get some really good starts at Thunder Valley, so that could be something that could really help him out and make Chase's life hard, and it could make for some really interesting racing, given that Jett, if he is ever going to fade, it will be at this race. So it could be interesting to see Chase try to chase Jett down. As far as Jett's injuries, it sounds like he got relatively lucky. The part that did get pretty banged up was his thigh. He took the foot peg directly into the thigh when he dismounted on like a side saddle type of dismount, and it sounds like it took a pretty bad gash out of his leg. Sounds like he did have to get stitches, and it also gave him a pretty bad dead leg. That's why he had a hard time getting back on the bike at first, and obviously, even though his bike was very twisted, it was also hard for him to just stand up. So that's why it took him a very long time to get going. It sounds like he is also a little bit banged up just all around, but in general, he's okay other than that thigh injury. I do imagine he will be feeling a lot better after a week to heal, but there's really no way that he could be feeling 100% with that type of injury the following week. So keep an eye on how he's riding late in the motos. If he's sitting down a little bit more than usual, it's probably from that thigh injury. But if he's still pushing hard and standing up late in the motos, then I expect him to be basically recovered from that injury. And especially after we take a week off after Thunder Valley, coming back for round 5, look for Jett to be returning to full form as long as he can stay healthy in Thunder Valley. Moving on to his brother Hunter, not nearly as much to say about him, but he's really having an excellent season. He's definitely a championship contender right now. He's right there, and I look for him to get his first moto win sooner than you think. While he does appear to be fading in comparison to Jett and Chase at the end of the motos, all it would take is one small slip up or one small step up from Hunter for him to get that first moto win. Aaron Plessinger is right behind him, really doing the same thing he did last season, but just a little bit better. It was awesome to see Aaron get out front and lead a bunch of laps. He was quietly rock solid last season in outdoors, and he was the only rider to score points in every moto other than Jett. I look for him to have a similar season this year, and realistically, I think he's kind of like a Ryan Dungey 2.0. He just doesn't get compared to Dungey enough because his personality is so different, but on the track, he's actually really smooth, really consistent, and always right there in the top 5. Then right behind him, we have Justin Cooper, Jason Anderson, and Dylan Ferrandis all fighting to try to establish themselves as the other top 5 guy. They're all pretty tight in the points, and they've all had good rides this season. So keep an eye on those guys as they establish a pecking order. It could be pretty hard to do, especially with Aaron Plessinger also being very close to their level. It would be pretty cool to just see those guys battle all year long just to get in the top 5. And I do expect all of those guys to get moto podiums at some point this year. Moving on to the track, Thunder Valley itself, the track sits at almost 8,000 feet above sea level, which would be equivalent to making the bike speed down about 20 to 25% on horsepower. Keep your eye out for that, especially in the 250 class, and look for the Star Yamahas and the Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki's to be out in front off the start, as those guys tend to have the best power package in the class. And lastly, looking at the weather, it looks like it's time to shuffle up everything that I said and then just throw it out the window, because it looks like Thunder Valley could quite literally be a Thunder Valley, as it is forecasted to have a thunderstorm Friday night and all day Saturday during race time. So if you guys don't already know, pretty much the only thing that will cancel or postpone a motocross race is the chance or the fact that there is lightning. And right now, there is forecasted to be lightning during the entirety of the scheduled race time. Now, it looks like the track is going to be at least somewhat wet or muddy. There's really no getting around that. What we're going to have to keep an eye on is the lightning. Will it come, and will it impact the race schedule? Really going to be interesting to see how they handle that. I really hope that they don't cancel or postpone the race, but obviously rider safety is priority, so keep your eye out for that. We could potentially have 2 pretty unprecedented races back-to-back, with Hangtown being an epic race where we saw the moto streak end and Chase Sexton have that legendary worst to first ride. And then we could have a race delay or postponement in Thunder Valley. So really going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. But either way, it looks like it's probably going to be a mudder. So that's probably still going to be interesting nonetheless. But with that being said, that's going to go ahead and do it for this video. If you guys stuck around for the whole thing, I really appreciate it. I'm trying to grow this channel as much as I can, and I'll be bringing you videos all season long, so feel free to stick around for those. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.